Yo, 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 what's up top 10 fam? Hope you're having an awesome day. I'm your host Ayman Hassan and welcome back to another video. Family secrets, you guys, we all have them, and if you think you don't, well, it's time to air out your dirty laundry, isn't it? And I'm gonna expose you. No, I'm kidding. None of these stories have been told on this channel before, I assure you, but they are traumatic, they are intense, and they are interesting. So get your popcorn out, because these are the top 10 scary family secrets you won't believe, because I certainly didn't. Now, starting off with number 10 is the truth. Now this one's from a girl on Reddit who said she was named after her great aunt who died in a motorcycle accident a few years before she was born. She was told not to talk about her to her great grandma because the loss was just too much to handle and relive again, which was fair enough. No one wants to relive the death of their daughter. Now when the user was 24 years old, her great grandma passed away, and after the wake her great uncle got drunk and just starts exposing everyone. Now in casual passing he mentioned the great aunt's suicide, and the user was like, wait, what suicide? Grandma told me she had died in a motorcycle accident. And he replied saying, yeah, that was the cover story. She just didn't want to tell anyone the real reason she had to give a closed casket for her daughter's funeral. And at this point the whole truth and nothing but the truth had to be spilled because too much had already been said. Now apparently the great aunt was a lesbian in love with another girl from university, and they had made a plan to be together without their parents' knowledge. Now when the user's great grandmother figured out the plans, she sent the great aunt halfway across the country in order to separate the two, but the girls had a contingency plan if this were to happen, and of course they knew it would. They made a suicide pact. The great grandma's homophobia had caused two innocent girls to kill themselves, but she admitted she never forgave herself for it, and it haunted her till the day she died. The user was honestly shocked at all the lies she'd been told about the woman she was literally named after, and the fact that everyone just accepted this lie just because of the great grandma's shame. This whole story just pissed me off, but then again this whole list is gonna piss me off. Love is love! Love is love. But coming in at number 9 is the boyfriend. This one actually broke my heart and was shared by a Reddit user. Now she said her grandma grew up in Costa Rica in the 40s, and at the time her mother was dating a guy that just seemed off. The user's grandma and her sister hated him, but their mother insisted that he was a good guy and that he took care of them, so they kind of just shut up about it. But one night the guy decides that he's actually done being nice and ends up murdering the mother in her bed by beating her skull with a hammer. Blood is everywhere on the walls, the ceiling, soaking the mattress. Now the user's grandma and sister come home to the scene and their mum dead in bed, and the boyfriend obviously nowhere to be found. They called the police, who took the body away, did a cursory examination of the crime scene, and then left. Can you just get this? The police left these two 12 and 9-year-old girls in a house where their mother had just been murdered. But the even worse part was that they only had one bed in the house, and that was the blood-soaked mattress, and if they threw that away they'd have to sleep on the floor. So they decided to just flip the mattress over, but then the user's grandma just ended up getting drenched in all the blood the mattress had soaked up. At number 8 we have who are the parents. Now this one also comes from a girl on Reddit who said when she was 21 her older sister confessed she had been raped by a stranger when she was 17 years old. The user was shocked that she hadn't been told this before, since they came from a really big family and everyone just kind of knew everything. But then she got to thinking her older sister also happened to be 17 years older than her, and people always commented on how the siblings could be twins. And one time for a class the user was asking her mum questions about her birth story, but she just couldn't remember the answers for most of the questions, like who was in the room at the time, when was she born, she just didn't know. To make matters more complicated, the parents were very religious and would never have condoned an abortion, so the secret here is that the user is adamant that she is the product of her sister's rape and that her grandparents have been pretending to be her real parents this whole time. Can you just imagine if your sister was your real mum this whole time? The user actually never had the guts to ask her sister about it, since if it wasn't true then she just made this whole traumatic rape story about herself, which is just very narcissistic. Honestly, if that was me I would have to ask. I couldn't live with myself if I didn't ask. But then if it wasn't true I would just disown myself and just leave. Now filling our number 7 slot is the rage. Now this one's from Reddit user SarXNA, who shared that her great grandpa and grandma had 17 children together, which Wow, like what a different time it was, but even then, that's a lot of bloody kids. Either way, the user found out that one of the children ended up becoming pregnant during her teens, but it was because her father had raped her. Now when the mother found out, she was so angry and filled with rage, not at her husband for raping their daughter, no, that would be absurd. She was livid at her daughter, who she then pushed down the stairs, and so the daughter and baby both died. That's just shocking. Why would you get mad at your daughter because your husband raped her? Now at number 6 is the uncle. Honestly, I read a lot of stories for this video, and I feel like a running theme in all of them was just evil uncles, which is just weird because I feel like uncles are usually just always so fun and nice, but clearly they are not. Now this one's from Reddit user GarbageCat88, who said their great aunt fell into a current at Niagara Falls and then got swept over the falls and ended up dying. Now most people ruled it out as an accidental death, but everyone in their family begged to differ. They believed the great aunt was actually pushed into the water by her alcoholic, abusive husband. Now the user's grandma told them that way back in the day, domestic abuse was seen as taboo and shameful, and so the whole thing was just kind of swept under the rug until the husband got remarried. The great uncle was very quickly arrested after his second marriage for nearly beating his wife to death. Dude, what is your issue? Go to rehab, buy a punching bag, and if neither of those things solve your issues, then don't get married. Plain and simple. So this Reddit user said that as their granddad got older, the user and their mum would look after him. Now the grandpa had dementia, but he would share stories from his life, from the war, from his youth, and so forth. Now one day he started telling them about his wife. He had liked her from before he went off to fight during World War II, but never really acted on it since he was poor and didn't think he was worthy to marry her. Now that's why he even enlisted, because he wanted to become respectable, but while he was away, their grandma ended up getting married to someone her parents approved of. But her first husband was horrible. He'd beat her, verbally abuse her, and even make her sleep in the barn outside in the cold. Now the only reason she didn't divorce him is because it just wasn't the done thing at the time. It was looked down upon, as you guys probably know. But when the grandpa finally came back from war, he was told she was married, that he could go visit her, and so he did, you know, just to say hello. Old flame, old fling, you know how it is. When he got there, he found her beaten and bloody and broken and took her to a doctor and convinced her to divorce the man and get out of that situation. She did, and then they got married a year later, but the ex-husband would continuously show up and harass her. Now the grandpa had always said the ex ended up moving away, but in a lucid moment recalling the story, he said this: "I hated him for what he'd done to her. I knew he'd never leave her alone. I made sure he'd never bother her or any woman again." So he basically just confessed to killing this man in the 40s in the Midwest, and not just that, he got away with it too. At number 4 is the video game break. Now you know when you've just been playing a PlayStation game for like 3 hours straight and you're just not getting anywhere, and you're like, you know what, okay, I can quickly pause this, get a drink, get a snack right about now, you know how it is. Now that's an expected video game break, whereas this one is the farthest thing from it. Now this one came from an anonymous person who said their grandma was watching them play video games when all of a sudden she made a startling confession. She shared that when she was super young, she snuck out of their house late at night, and a man who lived on her street ended up taking her to his basement and raping her. She ended up getting pregnant, and after she gave birth, her mum and doctor took the baby away and smothered it to death. And she didn't even have a choice in the matter. The person had no idea what to say to this unprovoked confession, so they just hugged her and apologized on many people's behalf, but their grandma had closed off again by then and just said she didn't want to talk about it anymore, she just had to get it off her chest. There's so many stories of this that I read, and I'm just like, my heart goes out to all these people that such horrible things happen to you guys. Now filling our number 3 slot is the disappearing act. This one kind of made me laugh a bit. Like, I know it's not funny, but this aunt is just on another level of that I just want to attain at one point in my life. So an anonymous person shared that they have an aunt that literally disappeared off the face of the earth. It was the 40s or 50s in Portland, and she was about 20 something at the time. But nothing was wrong. She didn't have a problematic life, she was happy, she had a job, didn't have any family problems, but one day she just never came back from work. But also I just want to add that just because nothing seems wrong with her or her life on the outside doesn't mean she was happy on the inside. I mean, you never really know what people are going through truly, so just want to throw that out there. Anyway, her family had no clue what happened or where she went, and they assumed she got kidnapped or was killed or just died somewhere. That was literally in the story, that she just died somewhere. How casual is that? Anyway, 5 years later, the aunt's brother is in Chicago for a business trip, and while walking down a street, he sees his sister. He calls out her name to make sure it's her, and she turns around and he's like, what the hell? Before bombarding her with a bunch of questions, which she obviously dodges. To clear the air, she invites him to her apartment, promising to explain everything. They reach the apartment, and before they get started, she says she really needs to buy some cigarettes from across the street because this was all a massive shock for her as well. He lets her go, and then again, she never bloody comes back. Like, what? Like, don't let her go anywhere alone if she has a history of pulling this crap, dude. Like, you had one job to not let her out of your sight, and that's exactly what you did. Chaperone her to the cigarette shop. You don't let her go alone. No. Now at number 2 is the drugs. This just pissed me off so much I can't even tell you. Now this Reddit user shared that he found out that his dad used to drug his mum for years while they were married and then proceeded to rape her when she passed out. Now as soon as the user found that out, he helped his mum divorce him, and now the family has no relationship with the dad whatsoever. But it gets worse. While the user was dating his now wife, she once had some drinks with his dad and just was not waking up. Now she had just turned 21 at the time, so the user just assumed she couldn't handle her alcohol, but after years of knowing her, he realized she can handle her drink very well and she's never been unwakeable. So the user is damn sure his dad drugged his wife and maybe raped her, but he has no proof. This whole story just made me absolutely sick to my stomach. Finally, at number 1 is the secret family. This one blew my mind, but it's actually not as uncommon as you'd think. So this story was shared by an anonymous girl who has 2 brothers and parents who have been married for over 35 years. Now remember that detail. Now one year over Christmas, she was doing some family research and found that her dad's name brought up birth results for 2 other people other than her and her siblings. Now the births were registered to the north of England, which was a red flag straight away because her dad used to work in that area for 5 years 20 years prior. So keep in mind, their parents were married by that point. He would go up there for 2 weeks, then be home for 2 weeks, and so forth. Now the girl did some more digging and found the 2 kids on Facebook, and they were now grown women, and their last names were also her dad's last name. Instead of contacting them, since she assumed they didn't know either, she found and contacted their mum. She posed as her dad's relative, and the woman confirmed her dad was the father of her kids and even sent photocopies of their birth certificates. Now the girl ends up calling the woman and confessing she's his daughter as well and had no idea about any of this, and the woman obviously breaks down crying. She shared that they had met in a pub and her dad had told her that he was single, and a few months later they were expecting their first child, and a year later the second. She thought he went back to Wales every 2 weeks for work, but he would call every other day from a phone box because apparently he didn't own a landline. Already shady, so many red flags. Who doesn't own a landline? Come on now. And one day he went back to Wales for work and just straight up never came back. The woman tried to contact the company he worked for, but his contract was up, so he didn't work there anymore. And since he had lied about where he lived in Wales, the woman couldn't find him either. So the girl's dad just left this woman with 2 kids and literally did the biggest case boy ghosting I've ever seen. Like, I thought I got ghosted bad, like this is horrible. The girl didn't even have the heart to confront her dad or tell her mum about the other 2 kids. Oh my god, I don't even know what I would do if I found that out. First of all, I would tell everyone. Would I? That's a secret that would ruin a family for sure. Oh, but the truth has to come out, you guys. And that's it for today's video, guys. What a bunch of stories. I think this is my favorite video that I filmed just now because of how messed up it was. Does that make me weird? Damn it. Let me know what you guys thought in the comments below, and as always, I've been your host, Eamon Hassan, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye!